So we have, start right in. Someone call it to order or start.
Yes, Kevin Vera.
Holly Woldridge.
Liz Mitchell.
And then Kevin's minutes. I have one extra agenda packet if someone needs it. I could only have time to print out one.
I'm Dave Alves. I'm in the box.
Oh yeah, stay in the
Dave.
box.
How's everybody?
Good, how are you?
Wonderful, thanks.
Yeah, so I looked at your meeting minutes, Kevin, and they looked good. Thank you. Okay, then I guess we have to do the chair for the committee. We don't have a chair. So anyone want to be the chair?
I vote for Holly.
I will second that.
What are we supposed to say?
Yeah, I
All in
don't know. I'm not
favor?
well versed in the.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
Any other nominees or discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so then we'll swing right into the old business, the ramps. Karen and Joe's ramps. So what we had done was kind of picked up the ball from Karen working with Sebago and finding out more information about the ramp. So I had a bunch of conversations with Nate from Sebago Dock. Based on his input, I had put together a scope for Lindsay. And I included that in the agenda. It was just a draft, and she had given me the one for the fire hydrants as a guide. So I just tried to use that and fill in the blanks with the ramps. And again, with the info that Nate had given me. Let's see. So from what I understood from Nate was that he explained it to me as though there's a platform. So you could have whatever size platform you would like anchored on shore. He recommended a 4x4, and I think that was what was in his original quote. And the platform is anchored to shore at the corners with pipe, he said. And then you've got whatever size, in the platform you could have, various decking with or without railings. And then the same goes for the ramp. He explained the ramp as a temporary sort of structure that you bolt on and off with various types of planking and get it with or without rails. And then I think the original quote called for wheels. But for another conversation I had with him, he said, I don't see any benefit to the wheels. It's an easy job for two people. Half hour, he said, tops for two people to just lift the ramp in and out. But then that, as Lindsay pointed out, then you get into who's going to be doing that and where you're going to store them. Last week I called, just for the heck of it, I called mainly Docks just to kind of see their thoughts on that type of project. And he explained it the same way. His name was Alton. He explained it the same way, saying that you'd have a permanent platform on shore. He recommended 4x6. He said it was a little more stable. And they have a different type of planking. Anyways, he wrote me up a quote, and I included that in the package also. Let's see. His was, I don't want to say significantly more expensive, but it was definitely pricier than Sebago. to be honest, I don't know where we're at with that discount, that Sebago dock had offered a discount, but I think there was a kind of end of year
I think, I
stipulation,
think
but
he did it to you.
I do too. I asked him for an updated quote. I'd asked him for an updated quote a month ago, and then he kind of went radio silent on me, and I was worried he was getting frustrated. But then I heard back from him last week out of the blue, asking how things were going. I said it's still in works. Updated him on, the progress, and asked him again for the updated quote without the wheels. So he provided that. Let's see. Sebago had suggested a 4x16 ramp. And so that's the same. I gave mainly docks the same dimensions. And so their quote was for, for mainly docks, 4x6 platform with a 4x16 ramp, no rollers. He explained that a 4x6 is probably more stable. And he explained the type of decking that they use. It's called through flow decking. He said it's just slotted. He didn't call it vinyl. He said it's some sort of composite plastic, I think is what he said, material, but it's slotted and it allows sand to pass through, and it's textured to prevent slips. And then for one of those, for the platform with the ramp, he quoted at $4,900. But then attached in his email, he did say, I think I have it. He wasn't sure. Okay, let's see. I also don't know how much the grant was for, so I'm not sure if we are even in the ballpark. It's been a huge goal for ours this past year to get more of our products in the southern Maine area. So please let me know what we need to do to earn your business. So it might be worth investigating that. And then the final I got from Sebago last week for a 4x4 platform, 4x16 ramp with no rollers, and he did include the discount. That was $11,600. I could barely read that, 68. That's for the 3 ramps. I know there was some discussion at the select board meeting. I think it was just real quick towards the end about permanent versus temporary. And I had concerns with that just because I feel like I can't say for sure from year to year, but I'm positive I've been there in the last 5 years, a couple years where we've skated down there, and the water's been right up to, if not, over the bottom step, the aluminum steps. We were able to lace up and skate right off the steps. And then of course that's like the first place the ice breaks up to, as we were getting into March. You kind of had to jump over the icebergs to get to the good ice to skate.
So
So
a
I'm
ramp would be
worried
even
that-
further out than that, right? So
I think so, yeah, the 16 feet. So I don't know both places said, hey, you can custom order anything you want. If you want to make it one solid piece and call it permanent, you could do that. But my thought was, why not have the ability to have the ramp removed if you have to? And it does affect permitting too. I'm still a little bit confused about 100% the permitting process, but I believe that the platform would be covered under the CEO for a structure. And it's because it allows access to the water. And then the ramp would be temporary, which would require a permit by rule through the DEP, as opposed to, I think if you just have something permanent and it's left there year round, then I think it requires, because it goes below the normal water line, that you have to get a more extensive permit from the DEP. I think it's an individual permit. which is-
May I, Holly?
Yes, please.
So the board talked about keeping it permanent, but that doesn't mean you can't take it off. It just means that you can leave it there. So to purchase it, it wouldn't be one piece. It would still be a removable part.
Okay.
If you have any kind of evidence that the water does go that high, then, I'm sure they'll rethink whether they're going to take it out each year or not. And I'm sure that's just a fast Google Earth by year. Kev, is that something you can do, Kev? Just search, see if the water's that high. I've never seen the water, that low, but I haven't been there that often. So as for the permit, I believe the only thing you have to do is go to the planning board. You don't have to, there's no extensive thing with the DEP.
Even if we decide to, let me find the email from Rebecca. She did say that, she did clarify that there was two options. Let's see. If I have it here. You guys remember seeing that? Yeah. She heard back from the DEP regarding the proposal. Basically, there are two ways to approach the project. If the platform and the ramp are going to be installed permanently, then you will need to obtain a permit from DEP. I think this NRPA, National Resource Protection Act, I think that's just synonymous with the DEP. So the DEP, you have to get a permit from the DEP, and then you have to go through the planning board for their approval. And I think that's driven by, right, the zoning, the shoreline zoning ordinance. It's that table that directs you to the planning board for don't quote me, I think it's for permanent structures. And then she said, if the platform is going to be permanent and the ramp temporary, then you need to obtain a permit from DEP, which I believe is the permit by rule for the ramp, and then a building permit from the code office which I believe is for the structure on shore. That was my interpretation of that. And I think I have a copy of the zoning ordinance. Yeah, on page 13, where it talks about right, land uses, on the table on page 13, table 1, land uses in the shoreline zone. Item number 17, for piers, docks, wharf, bridges, and other structures. So I think that's what we have as an other structure. If we're calling the ramp an other structure that extends below the normal high water line, and it's permanent, then yeah, PB is indicated, so we'd have to go through the planning board. But if we're calling that ramp temporary, then no planning board is required. It's just CEO across the board. And we're in the limited, I think, the limited residential, so it's just CEO. That was my interpretation. It's tricky.
I think in the best interest, it's probably best to permit it as permanent, even with the consideration that it might come out in a high water situation or something.
Okay.
That would give us the best case scenario, as much as I'm not trying to steer us away from the
Yep.
planning board. That's probably our best interest to do that.
I tried to get a hold of, one gentleman, Dan Roy, I believe, from the Bunganut Association. he's seasonal. I saw his name on the website, and he was pretty helpful. But he said, to really get detailed info about the dam regulations, that I would want to contact the chair. And I did leave a voicemail with him, I just haven't heard back yet. I was interested in knowing what the, I know it's regulated, but I thought that the regulation was just on the rate, the release rate and the quantity and so forth, and not mandated that it be released, but I could be wrong.
Looking at the association's Facebook page, historically, they opened the dam on right around Columbus Day weekend, middle of October, and they close it back up, usually the first week of January. So if they haven't closed it yet, it should be happening soon. And then it just depends on Mother Nature. This has been one of the driest falls and winters we've had in a long time, so that's why the lake is so low. But other times with these winter storms can really bring some snow and ice and water into the lake pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
So that's just something to consider.
Dan was really helpful in describing the process too. He let me know the dates that you just said too. And he said there's a spillway and a gate. And so in October, they take a couple boards off the top of the spillway. So water starts releasing over the top. And then on December 1st, or it could, these particular dates could have been just for this past year, but around December 1st, they opened the dam at the bottom. So it starts to flow out to the bottom. And then he said they close it around the 1st of the year. And it is spring fed. Ed Savetsky is the committee chair. So if that's what we want to permit them as permanent, then
The one thing we'll have to do with that is we'll have to go out there and actually select the locations.
yeah,
Because we have to be specific on where they're going for the permitting process, especially with the planning board.
oh yeah,
I know everybody's gonna want to see the exact spot where it's gonna go.
yep. Yeah, so we think that in the scope, I gave the aerials that you provided and gave a couple options, 2 different options.
I think we should recommend that we still be taken out each year. Like, if they are in there and it freezes, it's going to break.
Yeah. Oh, they did, Alton explained, he explained, well, the storage procedure too. He said a lot of people are, for whatever reason, they want to take them out and store them upside down on shore, the ramps. And he said that they do go over, like a procedure with you when they come and do the install. And he said that they go over that pretty thoroughly, that, you want to store them upright, not upright like vertical position, but just not tip them upside down because they have drain holes, and of course they need to drain. But yeah, I don't know. I know there was talk about someone doing kind of like routine walk-arounds, maintenance type of stuff. So it could be just one of those things that someone keeps an eye on, and if they need to come out, then they can come out. But if not, like a year like this, like, nothing wrong with that. So let's see. I think that was all for ramps. Does that sound right? We cover all of that. Did you guys have any questions? You do. Let's hear them. Yeah. Oh, do you want to ask about like locations?
No, I'm just wondering, you got the grant money for them, so I would just like to see this move along. Is there any decisions that can be made at this meeting? I mean, about going forward, I think you have to have the handrails, you mentioned you could have with or without, but I think you need to have that to
Oh,
have
yeah.
the grant that
Yep.
that we submitted for.
Yes, and you know, I do need to, I did, as much as I've looked at these quotes from Sebago, I think I need to go back one more time, he's gonna kill me, and ask to him if he could clarify or specify on his last quote. He didn't say anything about railings on the platform itself, only on the ramp. So I think that's probably necessary, isn't it? Railings on the platform as you step up to the platform,
Mhm.
I would think. Yeah,
Holly, has this gone out for an RFP?
no,
I think that's your first, that's the
Isn't
first
that-
thing you should do.
Isn't that
Even though you
board?
received a quote, you should officially put it out there. It's over $10,000.
we do that or the select board does that?
Selecting?
You provide us with the specs,
Quotes.
I'll provide Lindsay with the specs and she drafts the RFP.
So we already did that.
Well, I specified in my draft scope to her, all I had at the time was what was on the Sebago quote. So I think that,
It should be fine.
do we want to consider mainly Doc's suggestion to go with a 4x6 versus a 4x4? I know, I've never seen one of these ramps. So-
I think a 4x6 is more stable
Okay,
for the areas that you're gonna put it in because it's already washed out in those areas.
okay,
Although you did have Nate go down and inspect it himself, and mainly
That's right.
I don't believe has. So you could check with Nate and ask his opinion on that.
okay.
Ask why 4x4.
Okay, and then I will, so I don't need to go back to Nate and ask him for an updated quote with railings on a platform. We just need to, I'll ask him his opinion on the 4x6, and then once we come up with the final list of specs, then send that to Lindsay. Okay, so, and then 4x16 is what I had requested on the ramp size. That was provided by Nate. So we're good with that.
Should you initiate the permitting process as well at the same time?
Yeah, we should definitely set up a meeting with the CEO. That's the starting point. Discuss that with Rebecca.
I guess my other question is, if you're gonna remove them every year because you don't know what's gonna happen with the water level, then why go through the permitting process for permanent if you're not gonna use it?
I don't know, is there a price difference?
Would,
It just
What
seems
do I
like
follow
a
Kevin's
hurdle that you
suggestion?
don't need to.
Well, you
Jump.
would have to get the AOK from the CEO, and call it temporary. You'd call the whole shebang permanent, and just go through the process of going through the planning board and DEP. And as necessary, we can then remove the emergency.
But the platform is permanent. So that piece is permanent anyway.
It's
Oh,
permanent, but it's,
Okay.
it's covered in the shoreline ordinance because it's,
That piece is above the high water mark, but it's a permanent structure within 75 feet.
it's at, I can't find it. She has the ability to issue permits for access, for water access. Yeah.
It had to go through the DEP permit either way, correct? Permanent or temporary?
Two different versions. One's a
Yes.
permit by rule, one's a full
But it's
DEP.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Removal is easy.
Yeah. I'm sorry, if we're permitting though as permanent structure, that's an individual permit through the DEP. It is. And that's, I have never done that before, but I understand it's.
We received that
Time.
directive from the select board in their last meeting. They voted to permanent, as permanent.
Mhm.
So they would have to change it.
Oh, it
if
was
we
voted.
didn't want
Yes, it
to.
was.
Okay. I don't know the time frame for approval on an individual permit. Permit by rule is the type that, which, you don't even hear anything back within a certain amount of days and you're good to go. But not so much for the individual permit.
Once we get a application together, I don't think it's too bad.
We'll just have to get on it.
Yeah, we just have to really start the process.
What that does,
to see.
sure.
Same with the planning board, that's gonna be
Yeah,
a 1 to 2 month, possibly 3-month process, just based on how things run.
okay.
So if I may to close this out, Holly?
Yes.
The committee really has to put the scope of work together so that it can be formed into an RFP so that it can go out to make it formal. That covers everybody, that covers the charter. In the meantime, the permit, like I said, the board wanted it to be permanent unless, somebody can definitively say that there's water there. But either way, it's going to be built so that you can take it off. So that's not a big deal. It's just a different form for DEP that needs to be filled out, and then get a planning board application and jump on the schedule for the planning board. Then all that gets presented to the board, and then they award the contract.
Mhm.
Is there anybody that has some experience in this type of thing? Because this is just a volunteer committee and Holly has a full-time job and it seems like it's quite an extensive process.
Actually, it's not bad. It's the biggest thing is getting the scope of work, which if you have a price, you just about have the scope of work. I think I agree with you. I think a
I meant the
4x6
permitting
would be better just for stabilization on it. The railings, and then the 4-foot with railings going down to the water. So there's the scope of work,
part. Didn't you
to
already
install.
set the scope?
Kevin has the locations.
I mean, I have a draft of the scope of work
That was
all
already
ready to
sent.
go. I just
Yeah.
need to, I guess I just need to nail down the 4x4 versus the 4x6.
Yeah.
And specify that the platform has a railing as well.
Yeah.
I think we can get those platforms installed so that they're flush with the ground, so there's no stepping up to get onto the ramp, whether it's some mulch or chips or something.
Yeah, I specified in that, like I had a couple questions in writing up the scope, and I tried to notate, with notes towards the end, and that was one of my items here. Let's see. So I really tried to take as much verbiage from the hydrant scope as I could. Basically, like, contractor shall provide like accommodation of specific site conditions to limit, area of soil disturbance and protecting the like existing natural buffers that are there. Like we don't want them ripping out existing buffers to put these in. And that site preparations are the responsibility of contractor. Contractor shall supply materials necessary to restore land areas to near existing conditions. as before the platform site preparation as required. And that was one of the items I had noted. I wasn't sure if that should be asked of the contractor, or if that's on us, you know, to do the post install sort of, like you said, mulching or. And that what you said just a minute ago reminded me too, Mainly Docs suggested they suggested this, and Nate hadn't mentioned it at all. They suggested this flap. I'm not sure if I have my notes of the dimensions, at the end of the ramp. And he said it just provides a little bit more of it's probably only 4 inches from the end of the ramp down to the sand. But they, in Mainly Doc's quote, they added this little flap, you know, that provides a little bit more gradual transition. And so I think we need to decide if that's something we want to include in the specs.
What does it do?
Just, you know, when you get to the end of the ramp, for somebody who really, you know, might have trouble with that last step. I don't know if it's significant enough.
It's very useful. You should
Okay.
have that.
Okay. You know what I mean? It's like a little extension on the end of the ramp. It's just a gradual into the sand.
Less likely it'll be a trip hazard.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Do we want to discuss what we want for decking? Sebago suggested, or on their quotes, were tan vinyl.
I think, if I may,
Yep.
I think if you word it, non-skid,
Mm-hmm. And then let them quote.
I just drew a blank, I'm sorry. I had it all. A non-skid, it's not a vinyl plank, it's a composite decking. Non-skid composite decking. With the 4x6 with handrails. And a 4x4 ramp with, I'm sorry, a 4x16 with handrails. That would be their supply and install scope of work. And then all the little details that you left were handy and good. You know, if you just write that up and submit that, fill out the permit form for DEP and get on the planning board, I think it'll move forward.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any more questions? No. All set with that? Okay. So then, item B was for forestry flagging, and that's long done, right, Dave?
Yes, the 100-foot marking was done a while ago.
Yep. And then item C, chapel repair. Is that done? It looks done.
Yes.
Okay.
The masonry still isn't done.
Oh,
He said at this point, he'll come back in the spring before they open.
same person doing that?
No, a mason from Lyman, though.
Oh,
Donation.
and then were there, okay, so we can get the I think for most of these items too, I had noted just to note, who the donations were coming from so that we could follow up. I think we talked about a few months ago about doing something.
Yeah, it was Eldridge Lumber had the all of the wood for the bridge and the roof and lumber for the chapel.
Oh.
Dayton Sand and Gravel supplied all the D gravel and stone. Dan Cause Construction donated the trucks to get everything there. Perry Masonry will be doing the masonry.
Okay.
I think that was it for now. Oh, Dan Cause also donated a load of erosion mix.
That's what I was just gonna ask. Okay.
Were you able to do any of that work, Kev?
I was planning on getting out there, and then we got hit with that cold streak, and the ground froze really
Yeah.
fast on me. So I got it all ready to go as soon as it's ready in the spring.
Yep. Well, it's there. So that was the hard part.
Okay. So then I had bridge repair. That looks awesome and done, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I think come spring, maybe Kev, maybe you can top off some of that so it's a non-trip hazard,
Yeah, we'll get the transitions all smooth.
whether it be stone right at the very end of the bridge where you step off.
Let's see. Item E was materials on site. You just went through those, Dave. Materials on site, and then I had plan for use. So the gravel that you just mentioned that was on site,
Yeah.
that's the stuff that Kevin's gonna spread on the pathway down. Not the steep pathway down, but the winding one down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the new main pathway down to the
Okay.
beach, the ground. And some of that gravel will also be to fix up the handicap parking,
Oh, okay.
which that's another question I have for Rebecca. Is, what can we do with that down there since the existing parking space at the sign is within 75 feet of the shore, and I don't think we can add any more gravel to that particular spot. But if we put in some new spaces outside of that, that setback, which is just a little further down the road, I think would be okay. And I want to confirm that with her.
Okay. So I had that as item H. So you'll talk to her about that
Yeah, that would be
handicap
one
parking
of
plan?
the things on our list to talk to her about. Yes.
Okay. Talk to the CEO. Okay. So then the erosion control mix that's down there by the beach, do we have a plan for that? We had initiated the discussion about it, and then I think that, right, we got into some permitting questions.
Lindsay mentioned that pile down there was for the bridge.
Oh,
And now we have a much larger pile up in the parking lot as well. So
oh,
we have quite a bit of material to work with.
okay.
I originally put that down there to put along the water side, if we were going to backblade and add sand. So I just wanted to get some down there.
Yeah, that's still the plan, Dave.
I can't hear you, Kev.
Sorry, that's still the plan. We need some
Okay.
ECMs to reinforce that embankment along the main beach area so we can get some sand in there. So otherwise, DEP wouldn't allow it without a stabilization plan in place. Because then the sand will just wash away again.
Kind of jumping forward. But related to that topic, I had contacted Lake Smart, found them online. They train and support volunteers to assess the condition of shoreline properties, like runoff and erosion issues. They provide recommendations, best management practices. So they're on their website, they have some awesome ideas, and I think it's things that we can do when we talk about spreading the de-gravel on the pathway down. They have, like a 5-minute video on how to install rubber razors to divert water. And most of it looks like stuff that we could do ourselves. So I contacted her just to kind of get some conversation going. I was going to ask her, mainly about the videos that they had posted there. They talked about, it was a lot about water diversion. But then I was going to hit her up and see if she had any experience with this type of like sand reclamation that we had been talking about. I haven't gotten that far with her yet, but I think that they would have some great ideas, for right along the beach there. So anyways, we still will move forward with putting the erosion control mix that's up in the parking lot down on the water's edge in anticipation of getting sand in. I haven't researched permitting requirements for any of them.
Yeah, we can discuss that with Rebecca as well.
Okay,
Everything starts with the CEO.
okay. CEO. And then, I just wanted to check with you, before, can we look at the rubber razors, they call them, installation?
Mhm.
Is that something we would want to do before you spread that gravel? Or is this just kind of like a temporary measure to get us through?
That rubber, what you're talking about is a rubber, pretty thick rubber, that goes in between, say, a double
Yep.
2x8, and you sink the 2x8 into the ground. I don't know if the way it is right now is even diggable.
Oh,
That looked pretty bony, wasn't it, Kevin?
Yes.
So, my thought is if you had a small machine to put a water ditch on the high side, that would at least be temporary, so that you could put your gravel in and build it up to the point where maybe eventually you could do a razor. But otherwise, I don't think you have the depth. You're gonna have too many rocks to install that right now.
okay. Okay. And I had handicap parking, so I'll talk to the CEO about that. Anything we can do this winter regarding the pines? I think we had talked about maybe some signage over there. One thing I've been meaning to do too is go down and take an inventory of all the picnic tables there, because I'm not sure that any of them in the pines are worth anything. But I didn't know if there were things that we can do right now or start working on so that the pines will be in better shape in the spring.
There's a couple of grant opportunities that are in play right now, if you can pull together a project plan for that. The Maine Community Foundation is open right now, and that's up to $10,000.
Maine Community Foundation.
And I'm happy to help you with the grant. You know, if you can put a plan and budget together.
I'll look at that. I've never heard of that one.
The select board, in case you didn't know, did give Joe and I the authority to, or the approval to move forward with grant writing for the town.
Nice.
I'm happy to do
Ooh, okay. Okay, I'll look at that one. Are there any others that you think of off the top of your head that
that.
I
I
can
know
look at?
ARP is open. I don't know.
Possibly soon.
That's a much bigger one. I think you'd have to really be further along in your plan development
Yeah.
and budgeting and so forth.
Although, on the Zoom today, there's a presentation from the folks in Howell. And some stuff that they were doing there, ergonomic chairs.
Shades,
Tables.
canopies, that
Mhm.
kind of thing. You really have to be buttoned up in terms of what you're.
Yeah,
you want,
oh yeah.
What it's gonna cost.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see, lines. So nothing for signage. I don't, it wasn't, like I said, it was something we had mentioned, I think in November. I don't know what kind of signage there is even down there right now, off the top of my head, I can't remember. Like, you know, no smoking type of signage. I guess we can go take a better look at
Laminated
it or
pieces
picture.
of paper just tacked to the trees.
Yeah, all right, let me take a look and
But that's a starting point, signs, picnic tables, see what they really need.
And I know the select board voted to set the rental rates for the Pines. And it's my understanding that's currently staying as a one rental. We had discussed about breaking it up. If we can get the chapel area fixed up and ready to go, which is getting there with the new roof and everything, and maybe some new tables, I think that I hope the select board will reconsider breaking that off as a separate rental. Has a lot of potential, not just for receptions, more intimate types of get-togethers, but also possibly can be marketed as an area that you can actually rent for the day as your own little private waterfront area for a family or a group. That has a potential to bring in much more revenue for the town on its own, separate from the main Pines area.
should we investigate an access point to that?
I know that there was some talk about the issues of parking and with access. To get to the chapel area, you'd have to walk to the main Pines area. Potentially, we might be able to cut a new trail from the main entrance gate on Brock Road, where the parking is across the street, and have a nice little windy trail through those pines over to meet up with the existing trail that goes over there near the stone jetty. So you're actually not interrupting if there was another function going on in the main Pines area. You can get over to the chapel through a separate entrance. And you could still wind your way around where the porta potties are going to go, where they usually go. So you have access to those without interrupting.
Yeah, we have to do that too.
That's another possibility to alleviate that. And for the parking concerns, I know the majority of the rentals for the Main Pines area is other parks and recs from other towns. And a lot of those kids are brought in on buses, so I don't believe there's a major issue with parking. The parking lot across the street from the Pines can handle, I would say, 30 to 40 vehicles if they're parked correctly, which if the Main Pines is rented by a corporate group or something where there are a lot of cars, I think it can handle that. And the chances of everything being rented at the same time, at least at the beginning here, is probably not a big issue.
I agree. And when it starts picking up, by then, hopefully we have more parking figured out. People aren't running to rent it out at this point in
That's
time.
correct.
I think we'll be okay.
Whatever we can do to get it rented more
Yes.
is good for the town and the taxpayers.
Okay. Park map. I think that I just wanted to pick up on, I haven't taken any action on this yet, but we had discussed it at the November meeting. Michelle went through taking an inventory of all of the things that we had. And I went through all of the maps that I have access to that we've created that is kind of a mix match set of maps. It's like a map with existing things, and then there are wants and proposed, maybe the proposed trail system is on there, so it's confusing. And there's been a few times where I've shared, I've been trying to talk with the Trails Grant lady or this Lake Smart lady and showing her the map, and it's so hard for me sometimes just to explain to them where things are, because we don't have a map, just one map showing the existing, everything that exists over there. All the parking lots, all the gates, and then we refer to things as, of course, like the chapel and the bog, and so just to have a nice map all laid out.
That's something I can definitely work on.
The everything, like the spring that's out back, the little spring, and the pump house that Billy Single uses, just lay it all out so we know exactly. I mean, we know exactly what's all there, but in terms of sharing it with other people, we think it would be helpful. And also all the pathways, there are so many paths over there. I think it would be helpful just to have one map to show them. KCB cleanup was next, and I haven't been down there in a few weeks, so I don't know the status of that. I don't know if you do, Dave.
Yeah, they actually finished those, the trees that were dangerous, just down at the Pines, within 100 feet. There was, I think, a half dozen trees that had to go.
Okay, so they're done.
Yes, I was told they're done, but I did not physically see it.
Okay. Were there any donations to note for that?
Say it again. I'm
Were
sorry.
there any donations to note for that? For the cleanup?
Well, I mean, I know he did it for
Yeah.
under cost.
Okay.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
I know it. I know it costs a lot more than what he charged.
Discounted rate. Okay. Acorn. Need to resolve with Acorn. I think the best thing to do I can reach out to Lindsay and see what she recommends going forward.
Do we have questions for them?
I don't think I have any more questions for them, but I do believe that I need to double check with Lindsay, but I think that we're still due to have a
One
in-person
more.
meeting
Yeah, or
Yeah.
Zoom. Yep,
where they go over the report, the Acorn report.
correct.
So I can follow up with her on that and see what she advises as far as Acorn goes. Sound good?
I'm sure if I read it again, I could come up with questions. Like, I'm sure that there's things we could ask.
They've been pretty helpful. I've been kind of asking questions, small questions here and there, you know, but yeah, if you want to take another look at it. And I'll follow up with Lindsay. Trails, let's see.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah.
Are you committed to Acorn? Are you still open to putting that out to RFP and perhaps considering others?
I don't believe we're committed to Acorn. I think we had the preliminary, I think we had it in phases. Where they
Because
have,
I'll make my pitch again. I think you'd get a lot more out of Dave Lane's for what you pay Acorn and what they delivered. You know, he can do the same thing. He's much more hands-on. He knows the area. I just will, again, strongly endorse that you consider him.
You worked on Kennebunk Pond
You
Beach.
worked on Kennebunk Pond, you worked on, a lot of parks in this area, not just small parks like, not small projects like Kennebunk Pond. And, Dave can speak to this too, because he worked with us on the pond committee. In addition to his expertise, I mean, he became sort of project manager. He did a lot of things that he didn't charge us for. He did all your permitting. You don't have to spin your wheels talking to Rebecca trying to figure it all out. He did that. He had relationships with DEP and
that's really
DOT
nice.
in our case. And I just think it would save you guys so much stress.
Yeah,
And it would accelerate, might, slow you down a little bit in the beginning, but I think it would accelerate the project overall.
somewhere buried in here, I had the Acorn report, but yeah, I think that we are still on, what did they call it? They were just evaluating and providing suggestions. And then they gave us the written report, and then I believe that we're still owed the
The last
in-person
piece.
report, and then that was it for there.
Yep.
We were to, if we had specific projects that we're looking at specific scopes, then at that point we would be reaching out again to them. So, but we're not there yet. But
Do you
yeah,
have any
I think
thoughts on
that.
that?
I'm sorry, was that directed towards me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you said what, Karen?
She's wondering if you have any
you
thoughts
want to share?
on,
On
yeah.
David Baines?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said when I first started with you guys, I had a great experience with him. I think he's awesome. But one thing we have to be mindful of is, we have an ad hoc committee here that was a 2-year committee. This ends in April. So your findings and what you want to get accomplished, whether it be, probably your action items or your plans written down or whatever, really has to come to a crescendo come April, because come April, the by charter, the committee goes away.
Yeah.
Karen asked, I don't know if you heard, Dave, if committees can be extended.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
That's okay.
And I'm sorry again, was that a question or
No.
just a?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sort of a
I'm
question.
just mumbling over.
I'm sorry. Well, it would have to go again in front of the board. Karen, you know better. I can't even see you.
I'm not even usually this quiet. No, I was just saying that the Kennebunk Committee went well beyond 2 years, so that's why I was thinking it could be extended.
Yeah, that's for the chair to come and talk to the rest of the board. That's, I can't make that decision.
I don't remember it being 2 years either. I feel like this was formed in in the winter, or in the spring of,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, I can see, yeah, okay. Let's see. Okay, so are we moving to trail status? I want to say November, Colin started with the Eagle Scout group. He started putting in a small kiosk, and then he came to the select board asking for funding for the remainder of his materials. He has until April to complete his project, and he just reached out to me with some dates that they're going to be working on some Saturdays through February on benches, and maybe even some trail work if he can. So I can send out the dates. It's Saturdays. It's kind of in the middle of the day, but I can send out the dates. I'll forward the email from Colin. And, also, I had been in contact with the woman who coordinates the Trails Grant. It's the Maine Recreational Trails Program for Maine. Let's see. Can't remember her name off the top of my head. Emily. We had a meeting. We met in a Teams meeting. She gave me the rundown of the grant, the process. She was really interested in coming out and checking out what Colin had started. So Kevin and I met her last month and ran her through the trails. She seemed to think it would be an excellent opportunity for mountain bike trail. She called it rugged, is what she called it. I would really like to pursue using that grant in some way, and I know that it covers, trailhead marking, kiosks, parking, and so forth. And I just struggle with, and I told her this too, I struggle with the scope of it all. I mean, that is a huge area that Colin's pretty much bushwhacking through right now, and it's rugged, and it's a huge scope of work in order to get what he's done into, I don't know what you call it, something that's not so more of a beginner trail. I would say the one that's there now is more intermediate. So I have a hard time wrapping my head around the scope of that and what it would take to get it to that point. But I think it's awesome. Like, at least if Colin could finish the loop, get it blazed out, put his little kiosk there, I think it's going to be awesome for people to go use. And then in connection with Sid Emery across the street, Melissa Missy from York County Soil, Holly and I stay in contact with her through Parks and Rec, and I told her that Parks and Rec can help clean up. They're still cleaning up one of the loops, one of their the larger loop from last year's storm. So they've got a small group working on that. I'm hoping we can get that done. And then really, if you've got the Sid Emery side, and then you've got the Bunganut side, there's a lot of trail there. I think I put the maps in the agenda. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I noted that the proposed trail system is we could, coordinate with York County Soil and Water, and that's shown on the map. You can see the existing Sid Emery, the Sid's Loop, and the Quarry Loop. And then strictly on the Bunganut town property is what Colin has been working on. It's all flagged out. And it was all flagged out strictly based on what was existing there. You could piece together the blazes that still exist on the trees after the last logging. And so he's just using that as his guide to re-break that trail. And then there's one page in there that shows his progress. So he's got a little bit more work to do along the remainder of the blue trail that loops back behind the Boy Scout hut, but he's made a lot of progress. Emily Brown is the coordinator for Maine RTP grant. So that would be something that I would definitely be interested in pursuing, is the Maine RTP grant, but I just struggle with the scope of it. And I don't know if just using the grant for there's that little dirt lot across from the Boy Scout gate. And I think that certainly has a lot of potential, but then as far as how that coordinates with what the town has plans for, I know at one point that was it ARPA money they had planned to use to extend that parking lot, but then I don't think that went anywhere. So,
That would be a good starting point for the grant.
Mhm.
And possibly some boardwalks to the wet areas on the trails.
you think so? You think it's worth? I don't have the grant specifics in front of me, what the max value is, but I think it's a pretty significant one. But maybe the parking area is more significant than
I think it is.
will be.
And if you go one step at a time, start with the parking lot, see what that, and then
Mhm.
continue on to what the grant's asking for.
Mhm.
Don't look at the whole process, you gotta go
Yeah, I
little bits
struggle
at a
with that.
time because you're getting overwhelmed.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, she also gave me the name of Brady Lloyd. He's the Sanford Parks and Rec director. I spoke with him, actually it was just via email, and they used the main RTP grant to improve Mousom Way Loop. He emailed me some specifics of what they used the grant for, and I was gonna go check out the Mousom Way Loop. He said it was there, but it needed some improvements, so. And Emily said she would try to get me some other examples. They didn't have a good, the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant, they can have, on their website, you can go and you can just click on the map and you can see everywhere that in the county where everybody's used that grant, but they didn't have such a thing for the RTP, so she said she would work on getting me some other examples. That's all I had for the trails. Budget status, I just put that on there. I don't know if we need to discuss that or not. I think that, we have a spreadsheet that I've tried to keep accurate, the one that Karen had started. And I think it lines up with what I've heard from Lindsay. I think we all know that it's pretty much done anyway.
It's done.
Yeah. And then, so new business was, again, the Lake Smart program. I will stay in contact with her. I told her that she sent me a ton of information right before the holidays. And I emailed her back and just thanked her for the info, and I told her I would, after the holidays, I would have time to dig in to all the info that she sent me.
Just so you know, there's
yeah.
a few people I know on Canton Pond that have been trained by Lake Smart,
Yeah,
that might be willing to, you
okay,
know, help you out. I mean, they're
yeah,
very well versed in,
really.
updating properties along the shoreline
Mhm.
so that they're Lake Smart and they
Yep.
conform with erosion
Yeah,
control
if you
and
could pass me
water
some
diversion
names.
and so forth, so I
Mhm.
can give you a few names.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, she mentioned that. She mentioned that there was, that Kennybunk Pond was on the list. And what else did she say? She strongly suggested, oh, something pretty significant in here where she talked about the status of Bunganut. Let's see. She strongly suggested that we look into doing a watershed survey. I don't know if that's something that this committee would do, but I think it would be something that I would be interested in doing regardless. She said that Bunganut is on the threatened category on the DEP priority watershed lakes list. The reason, I'm just going to read what this says. The reason for this is that it has been identified as sensitive. And here's what that means. Threatened lakes that are sensitive means that lakes have additional phosphorus inputs due to the lake's hydrology and threats in the watershed. A lake was determined to be sensitive if DEP's vulnerability modeling predicts the number of years for the lake's phosphorus concentration to increase by 1 parts per billion to 25 in 25 years or less. Let's see. Skip over all of that. If these sensitive lakes were determined to have watershed threats, they were then added to the priority list. So that was something that she had recommended, and I'm interested in that. I was also hoping that Ed Savetsky might have some information on that to see if he knew. I thought I had read some information in the past that was something somebody had done, I thought through what used to be the Conservation Committee in Lyman. I reached out to the chair of the Lyman Conservation Committee and I didn't hear back. So maybe Ed will have some information. So I can connect with Andrea and update. You know, she was really interested in coming out just to check it out. She did say that they're, you know, mainly work with private residential areas, but they were interested in expanding. So I'll keep in touch with her, see what she can have. You know, I feel like a lot of the things that they had on the Lake Smart website and the videos and so forth were exactly what Acorn had told us to do. So I think they're a good resource. And then lastly was the wetland delineation. That was something that Acorn had mentioned they suggested doing, and I think that's something we should follow up with too. Missy from York County Soil said they could do that in the spring for us, and in fact, the guy that sharpened the skates for Parks and Rec, in talking with him that day, he's a wetland scientist, so he seemed interested in that as well. But I think that getting a wetland delineation will help determine permits going forward for projects in that iffy zone, if that wet area is actually a wetland or not, or what we can and can't do in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something we could try to get on the books for the spring. Missy had said that's in Sam was his name, the wetland scientist. He said that's something obviously you want to do in the spring. That's all I had on the list. Anything else, Dave? Can you think of anything we can plan, do?
No, I think the action items are, as you come across them and you have a plan, goes a long way.
Yeah.
I think, once everything thaws and after the rain season, it'll be a good time to put all that gravel down and make some of those paths. I think that'll be huge.
Should we be looking at acquiring additional material for?
I'd use up what we had first.
Yep.
That's why I know it seemed like I was rushing things, but that's why I wanted to get stuff there before the end of the year so that they could, mark it down as a donation, until we see how far that goes. I'm reluctant to go back to the well,
Yeah, okay. Okay.
We make a motion to have it be done.
I've never done this.
Besides that.
I make a motion to end the meeting for tonight.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Oh, all in favor? Thank you, Dave.
Thank you all.
Thank you. It's freezing in here.
I'm sorry, she showed me how to turn up the heat and I forgot. I'm sorry.
Other at work, so I was warm. I will have cool air blowing on you all day long.
Talk to, B, I don't know, she's not usually at our board meetings on multi domain, so if I see her